watching NotesIn9.
Hello, and welcome to NotesIn9. I'm David Leedy. Episode 170, AngularJS and Pocket. This topic will make someone happy. And here he is. That's right. Calm down, Marky. Calm down. I know this isn't a new topic to you, but hopefully we're going to fill in a few blanks that maybe haven't been covered yet. So what is AngularJS? AngularJS is the hot technology, right? That's what all the cool kids are doing, so they say. There's been a lot of technologies that have been hot, and a lot of technologies that have cooled down or so. So time will tell whether AngularJS is one of them. Here's what I know about AngularJS. It's by Google. It's a JavaScript framework. That is about all I know of AngularJS. Here's what I think I know about AngularJS. It has a really kind of cool repeat control that looks interesting. It may not play that well with jQuery. I mean, I think it's compatible, but some of the stuff that I've read kind of seems to indicate that you're kind of better off not using jQuery because it's a different mindset. It's a different way of going about things. You want to use Angular, I guess, to manipulate your DOM. We typically use jQuery to manipulate your DOM, and I'm cool with that. I've got no problem with that. And it talks, I guess, exclusively. Maybe that's too strong a word, but it talks to a REST API back end. So here's the big thing, right? It's your database sends just the data in JSON to be consumed by Angular. You're not sending HTML markup and stuff like you do in a traditional NextPages application. And so I love this concept because your database could be Domino, it could be something else. I think this gives you, the web developer, and I'll say web developer, not the XPages developer, but you, the web developer, the most flexibility. This kind of concept where you're using your tools that you know to provide this REST API database, and then if you want to use XPages or a component inside XPages, great. If you don't want to use XPages for your front end and you want to use Angular or jQuery Mobile or Swift or Accelerator, great, because now you're just talking to the data. And God forbid you want to get off the .nsf and you want to use a different database backend, great, because all you have to do is switch to another database that uses a REST API backend, and then whatever you're writing in the front end is going to survive. So I love the concept of it. But there's some things you got to be careful of that I'm not too aware about yet. It's this little thing called security, or what I like to call don't be the next Sony, right? And somebody who likes beer, and I will not name him, does not like to discuss that because he's an idea guy and not the full implementer guy, as so I'm told. So when you see these presentations at these conferences on AngularJS, at least the ones I've seen, and when you see people blogging about them, they're using for convenience, they're using the Domino data access or Domino access service or whatever, right? And that's kind of limited there because you can't trust it because there's no way that I know of to write validation or get too many hooks on there other than making your views and stuff like that. So most of the demos that I've seen, there have not been any editing involved, and when there has been, it's just basically been through the Domino Access Service. And what that means is your JavaScript application is touching your live data. I'm going to say that again. Your JavaScript application is touching your live data. Well, if it's just REST calls and stuff like that, you could write your own JavaScript application. Someone else could, using those URLs that you get from Firebug, to touch the live data. So now your thing at $100 might get priced at $2. So I've yet to see good information about creating a custom REST API that you can kind of control with security and use that to feed these type of applications. And quite honestly, I've been trying to get that on the show for almost 9 months. And I'm hopeful. I keep talking to everybody. So I think the next stage of the evolution for the XPages developer is the REST API thing. So then you can start using these more standard tools, or I guess open source tools that have documentation and good resources behind them, like an Angular or maybe PhoneGap falls in there. I don't know, but I've been kind of had my eye on Accelerator for a while, Swift for sure. So there's a lot of tools out there, but they want to talk through JSON. and we're going to have hopefully get a lot more of that on the show. And if you have anything to contribute, please let me know. Today's show, though, I've got a returning guest that I'm very excited about. His name is Sean P. McManus, and he's a great X-Pages developer. He's done a couple good projects for OpenNTF, like the X Group Toolbox, and he's basically a friend of the community. And I do have to apologize because I've been sitting on this video longer than I intended to. But what he's going to do is he's going to basically take us kind of through an Angular application. If I remember right, it's not totally about using Domino backend data, but it's still very interesting. And I do suspect that we will have more Angular shows to come. So with that being said, let's talk. Let's go to the demo of Sean, and he's going to talk about Angular and the Pocket bookmarking service.
Welcome. Thanks for tuning in to my latest NotesIn9 screencasting show. I'm happy to have the chance to contribute to David's hackathon and hope you find this topic interesting and useful. Today I'm going to show in this short presentation how I used AngularJS running on Domino to pull in and format data from the Pocket Online bookmarking site. A little more about me. I'm an experienced Notes Domino web developer. I've been doing this stuff for about 15 plus years. I currently work for Mom Brands. We make breakfast cereal. I'm a husband, father, golfer, baseball coach, and now that it's November, I am sick of the impending cold weather and looking for a warmer climate. I can be reached at my website, spmcmanus.net, on Twitter at Sean P. McManus, or through Gmail. So first of all, this is kind of what it looks like here. This is a page on my website where I can store links and resources to other outside sources. I can filter based on tags, and it's a real quick and easy solution. So let me give you a quick demonstration. So if you go to my website, spmcmanus.net, click on links and resources, you'll see the site right here. This is pulling in live all the data that I have from the online Pocket bookmarking site. And within these tags, I can filter. Filter by tag pretty easily. I can remove the filter. And then clicking on any one of these particular links will open it in another tab. So very simple, but effective. So let's go back to presentation here. So if you're new to Angular, I highly recommend checking out the Angular series that Marky Roden did on his website. Started back in the spring, and also has a presentation from MWLog back in August. I used both of those. I went to MWLog, saw the presentation, and that's sort of what got me really interested in Angular. And then I went back and watched his series and actually reproduced his code in my own environment just to get a little bit more familiar with it, and then started extending that from beyond. I also picked up this book, AngularJS Up and Running. It's on O'Reilly. It's very good and real thorough, so it's a good reference to have as well if you're interested in Angular and need some additional resources to get up to speed. Okay, so my requirements. I wanted a links and resources section on my website, but I didn't want to have to open up my computer and to add something to it. I wanted to be able to do it easier. I use Twitter very religiously. I'm often sitting on my couch or in the office, or at one of my kids' practices, thumbing through Twitter, and if I see something that's really interesting, I might want to read it later. I might want to add it to my site and be able to kind of keep track of that. So I started using Pocket, and the great thing about Pocket is it integrates real nicely with the iOS Twitter app. So you can open up a link on the iOS Twitter app and be able to save it right to Pocket. So that kind of gave me the interface I needed to be able to put something and have it get pushed right out to my website real easily. I also needed an online bookmarking service that had a real usable API that was also integrated with Google Chrome and had the ability to tag links. and then the API would have also some filtering techniques. So Pocket kind of met what I needed here, and I'll show you how I went ahead and got that done. First of all, necessary tools, Domino Designer. Although Domino Designer really isn't entirely necessary for this project, I really did all my coding in JetBrains WebStorm, which is a much more sophisticated web IDE. So basically, what I did is I put all of my files on the web content folder in Domino Designer in an NSF, and then basically use the JetBrains to go ahead and do all the coding, and then the Domino server would just serve it up for me. So that worked really well. I should have read this the first time. So that works really well, and that first post that Mark had a real good explanation of how to use WebStorm and how to integrate it into be an on-disk development. So basically, you do all your coding in WebStorm on disk, and then it syncs back up to the server, within a few seconds of each change. So that made for a real nice way of coding. I also needed the Pocket API. You can find information on that at getpocket.com. And then the code that I'm using, AngularJS, obviously, Angular filter, which is an extra dependency that you can use that allowed me to do a few things there. jQuery and Twitter Bootstrap, obviously. And then I created, for my custom code, I have an HTML file, an AngularJS file, which includes the controller definition, and then just some very small additional CSS. So the first step here is to get the Pocket access token. So you go to the Pocket website, in right here in the authentication section, obtain the platform consumer key, and then you have to use that key to get a request token. And so a lot of the stuff on that is geared towards building mobile apps that are going to be, authenticating and retrieving data based on, user authentication. My use case wasn't that. I was always going to be me. So I was able to construct a URL that returns, using that consumer key and access token, that returns all of my Pocket data in JSON format. In addition to that, I use a couple additional parameters that the Pocket API provides. One to provide the complete information, to pull in just tags just entries that you have tagged as favorites, and then a sorting parameter. So let me kind of show you what that looks like a little bit here. So first of all, if you haven't seen Pocket before, here's the Pocket website. When you're not logged in, it's very simple here. It's just a online bookmarking service. When you are logged in, this is what you get when you come to the home page. So it's just a list of all these links I have. And the way I built this is I wanted to pull in only ones that I had considered a favorite. So that allows me to save things to Pocket that maybe I don't want on my website. Maybe I'm using for some completely other use. And so only the ones that I tag as favorite are actually going onto the website. So I constructed my URL here, and this is what you get returned. So I've got my consumer key and my access token up here. And then if you go further, there's here's the additional parameters that you can put in. So what you get returned is a list of all your data in JSON format. So essentially, this is what you get. Highlighted in blue is a single entry. So it has URL, has a title, time added, time updated, time read, a bunch of stuff that I'm not necessarily going to need, but some that I am. So that's really cool. Obviously, if you go and you want to mess around with the URL, if you take off the favorite parameter, then you're going to get a different set of data. So that's kind of flexible there, that you can pull in and filter in what you want to bring in right from the start, rather than having to do all of that filtering on the Angular side. So that's pretty useful. So that's that demo. So when I first went ahead and started playing around with this, I could get that URL and pull in, and I could get that JSON data, and that was great. But when I tried to do it in Angular, I got errors. I got cross-site scripting errors. So essentially, if you aren't familiar with that, cross-site scripting is some security logic built into most modern browsers, all modern browsers, I think, that prohibits directly accessing one site from another within JavaScript. And there's ways to get around that. You can get authorization from the source site. You can use server-side code. I think there's probably some additional alternatives that I haven't considered here. I think there's a lot of ways around it. But what I decided to go with is a proxy. So there's a site out there called CorsProxy.com, and basically what you do is you run your URL through them as a proxy, and they strip out all the cookies and everything, and they claim it's perfectly secure. For what I'm using in my data, security is not my highest concern. If somehow my Pocket data list gets hacked, it's not the end of the world. I can change my tokens and clean that up. It's not that big a deal. If you're using this for something that needs to be more secure, you probably need to run this through your security people and figure out exactly the best way to do it in a secure manner. But for my purposes, this was perfect. So next, you need to go ahead and build the Angular code that is actually going to retrieve that. So you need an Angular module declaration, the controller definition, and then you need the logic to retrieve the data and to parse it out and return it. So let me show you how that looks. So here I have my my Angular definition here, or declaration, and I've included in here, in addition to the standard link controllers or the standard controller, I have a filter dependency listed as well. And then down here, this is where you'll see kind of the meat of the code right here. I'm constructing my URL. So here you see that got the CorsProxy.com, and then right after that, this is the URL that I showed you earlier that retrieved that Pocket data. So it's just, you just put it all in there right after the CorsProxy.com, and then I'm using a simple http.get. So when that comes back, I'll show you later what that looks like here. I've got a log on that. I'm setting that to a variable, and then I've got a couple things that I'm doing here in this code. So basically, I've got my Pocket data, and let's go and look at what that looks like in the console log here. So the object comes in under the list element. I see every single entry right here. So every single entry here has the excerpt, the favorite. This is all that data that we were showing right here. So basically, that's a lot of stuff that I do not need. So I'm going to loop through each one, and I'm going to build a JSON array of just what I call the skinny data, just the data that I need. And then in addition to that, I'm also adding up a list of each tag that's being used, because I want to be able to create that filtering bar at the top. So every time I'm going to loop through using a .each, and I'm adding the tag right there to the tags all array, and then I'm building my JSON final array where I'm using a title, a URL, the excerpt, and the tags. So this is the part that's a little bit interesting right here. The tags itself is an array. So that's what I'm doing up here. I'm going through and I'm adding the tags for each entry to the my tags array, and then I'm adding those tags to the my tags all array. So essentially, I'm going through, and the my tags all is going to be just capturing each tag as I go through. So if the second entry has individual tags that are different than the first entry, it's going to continue to add on to that list, whereas the my tags is specific for each entry. So Once I have those built, then all I'm doing is just returning that to the scope variable, and then we'll show you how the HTML is coded to retrieve that. So this is kind of where all the magic happens here. I've got in the head, I've got all the data, all the libraries that I'm pulling in. So I've got Bootstrap, CSS, my custom one. I've got jQuery, and here are the two Angular files, and then this is the file that includes my controller. So title, right here, I'm binding the controller to my control, binding this div to the controller, excuse me. And right here, this code right here, this is all that filtering bar at the top. Okay, so I've got one of them is just an X, that's to clear the filter. And then here I'm doing a repeat. So I've got that now, this repeat is set up to bind to the variable tag list right here. Okay, that's the list of all tags. Okay, and then I've got this unique parameter that I'm using to filter that list on tag name. So that way, if I don't have 3 instances of Angular or 10 instances of X pages or whatever. And then here's the button, and this part's kind of interesting too here. So when I click on the button, I'm gonna execute the filter. However, if I were to just remove this $parent, nothing would happen, because when Angular spits out a repeat, it actually creates some separate divs for each instance. So in that case, the filter doesn't have visibility to what it needs to in order to it's not a very good way of explaining it, but you need to have the parent so that that filter goes up a level before executing and can actually get to the data it needs to. Okay, so down below then I've got a table. This is actually it's gonna display the data. So this is using just a standard repeat, but I'm actually using a repeat -start and a repeat -end, and what that allows me to do is that allows me to create multiple rows within each entry. Without that, you can still do it, but then you're coding it using break tags to separate from rows. So this is a little bit nicer way of doing it. So this is very simple too. It's just your standard Angular repeat, filter tag filter. So that's going right to here. This is where, again, maybe I'll try better to explain the parent thing, but if I didn't have the parent thing, it wouldn't have visibility. This filter wouldn't be able to see it. So that's why that's necessary. I've got an order by clause, so it shows by title, and that's really very much it. Just some styling here with the classes. Here's the link, here's the title, here's the excerpt, and then down here I have another repeat inside the first repeat, and that repeat is going to spit out the tags. So for each entry. So link tags in link.tags. So that comes back to links.tags right there. And then back up here, link in links, that goes right to here. So it's a little bit confusing at first trying to get used to the syntax. But once you do it a few times, it definitely does make sense. So let's go back here to this one. Let's see if I forgot anything. So I showed you the CSS and JavaScript libraries. I had a repeat on the links. I had a repeat for the tags on each link, and then for the link filters, and then the click that we used on the link filtering. So let's show you a demo of how I am going to add something new there. Okay, so let's say I came across this link on Twitter, and I pulled it up and I decided, all right, I don't have time to read this, or I want to look at it later. I want to put it on my link site. So 5 ways and reasons why you should learn AngularJS. So I come back to my Pocket plugin here, give it a tag. So I'm going to give this one a tag of Angular. And I'm also going to give it a tag of NotesIn9-Angular, which is what I'm using for all resources just for this site, for this presentation. Okay, so I add it there. Now if I come back to Pocket here, and in my instance, since I want only ones that I've favorited to show on here, I got to come in here and favorite it in order for it to display. So now I'll come back to my links and resources, close this, do a refresh, go to NotesIn9 Angular, and there it is. And it will be also available if I click on the Angular tag right there. So very cool, very quick and easy. So additional resources, obviously see my links and resources page. Go to the NotesIn9-Angular tag and you can see some specific resources that I use for this presentation. And some additional thank yous. Thanks to Mark for providing some good instruction on how to get me started. Thanks to David for allowing me to record this for NotesIn9, and obviously thanks to you guys for watching and learning. So again, there's my contact information. Hope you enjoyed this, and we'll see you again down the road.
And that's the demo. If you have any questions for Sean, please reach out to him. If you have any questions for me, here's my contact information, and I thank you for your time.